Welcome children. I am Dr. Mrs. Pallavi Patnaik and today we will be discussing about another interesting session of the chapter Air Pollution, a Hidden Menace. Already we have discussed some very interesting aspects of the chapter, and today in the second session we will be discussing some more important questions that you are most likely to get in your exams. I hope all of you have your notebooks and pens out so that you can all take in important notes from whatever I discuss. Now, in the previous chapter we had discussed about the impacts and effects of air pollution. In the subsequent slides we will discuss about how is water affected by acid rain. Children, pay attention to all the questions I discuss one by one. If necessary, note down the answers in your notebooks. How is water affected by acid rain? Now, when rainfall gets mixed with a variety of toxic substances, what are the toxic substances? Oxides of sulfur and nitrogen. It results in the formation of acid rain. Once acid rain is formed and it reaches the atmosphere during rainfall, it causes a lot of damage to lakes and rivers. What does it do? It makes them poisonous and it makes the water acidic in nature, as a result of which it has a harmful impact on our ecosystem. Now, how does it impact soil? We learned how does acid rain impact the aquatic ecosystem. Now, let us see how does acid rain impact soil. What does it do? Acid rain will bring about changes in the nutrition content of the soil. Children, we all know soil contains a storehouse of minerals and nutrients that are absorbed by plants. So, this acid rain will change the nutrition content of the soil. What does it do? It will wipe away nutrients like potassium, calcium and magnesium from the upper layers, and as a result of which it will kill large stretches of forests, leaving behind lifeless trees. So, you see children, what does acid rain do? It not only damages your marine ecosystem, it also damages the soil significantly. How does it damage soil? It washes away important components like potassium, magnesium, etc., which are necessary for the growth of trees. These components are washed away, as a result of which trees will not grow and ultimately they will become lifeless. Now, what is the next question that we want to discuss about? How do we control air pollution? Children, this is something very important and these questions are repeatedly coming in the last few years during your examination. So, pay attention. What are the different ways to control air pollution? What can we do? How can we control air pollution? We can control air pollution by changing raw materials used in industries. This is the first point. We can also change the ingredients of the fuel. This is the second point. Remember children, if you write down the answer point wise, it will be easier to remember. So, the first point is controlling air pollution by changing raw materials used in industries. The second point would be changing the components of fuel. The third point would be raising the height of a smokestack. The fourth point would be designing equipments to trap pollutants before they escape into the atmosphere. And what is the next point? Imposing of strict environmental laws. So, these are the basic aspects by which we can control air pollution. We learnt about acid rain, we learnt about the impact of acid rain on soil and water, and the last question we learnt about how air pollution can be significantly controlled. So, how can it be controlled? We can change the ingredients of the fuel that we use in factories. We can design modern equipment that would change toxic gases into harmless substances before they are released into the atmosphere, And then we can also urge the government to impose strict laws. Another thing is we can all reduce the use of automobiles. As we learnt in the previous session, carbon monoxide that is released from these automobiles is a major cause of air pollution. So, on our part, at a personal level, we can reduce the use of automobiles. Now, moving on to the next slide. What have different nations of the world done to control air pollution? These are the basic aspects that were meant to control air pollution that we studied in the last slide. But what have different countries done? What has India done? What have other Southeast Asian countries done? What have other nations abroad done about this very grievous problem? Let's see. Now, different countries have different strategies by which they keep air pollution in check. But mostly what they have done is they have ensured that there is improvement in areas by implementation of quality programs. What they have done? They have implemented quality programs. What are those programs? What are the points included in those programs? Burning low sulfur coal. This is the first point. Burning low sulfur coal and oil in factories and power plants has contributed to the lowering of air pollution. If we burn low sulfur coal and oil in factories, air pollution would be less. And what is the second most important point? Automobile engines have been redesigned and new cars have been equipped with devices. What are the devices? Like catalytic converter. Remember children, this is important. Catalytic converter, which is responsible for converting the toxic substances into harmless substances before they are released into the atmosphere. So, what do we learn children? Different countries have different strategies for controlling air pollution. They implement a variety of quality programs. What are the points that are included in these programs? Burning of low content sulfur and oil in factories and redesigning the engines of automobiles and equipping them with catalytic converters so that the harmful toxic gases are reconverted into harmless substances before they are released into the atmospheric air. These measures have considerably brought down air pollution in certain countries. Now, how have air quality programs brought us benefits? Now, we learnt in the first section that many countries are using air quality programs and what are the points that are included in those programs. But then we have to realize how these air quality programs have brought us benefits. How have they benefited us? Let's see. They have benefited us by including 2 points such as, what was that? Burning low sulfur coal and oil and power plants, and has also contributed in lowering of pollution in many cities. Like I said, these programs include 2 major points. One is burning of low power sulfur and coal and oil in factories, and the other important point that was mentioned in the previous question was equipping vehicles with catalytic converters, which convert toxic chemicals into harmless gases before they are released into the atmosphere. Now, moving on to the next question. Why do we still need to find out better ways to control air pollution? What is the need? We have discussed about so many ways. We have discussed about what different countries are doing. But why do we still need to find out a better way to control air pollution? Children, I want to repeat time and again, those of you who have doubts in these particular questions, please make it a point to note down the answers so that during your exams it will be easy for you to revise. So, why do we still need a better strategy? Let's see what the answer to this question should be. There is a need to find out better way to control air pollution because there are many countries where the problem is on a very high level, okay? And many physicians, engineers, biologists, botanists And so many other government officials are involved in research to seek new ways. Like I gave you an example, children, in our very own country, India, there was a phase in Delhi where lots of people were suffering from different kinds of respiratory disorders. So, our government decided to implement certain strategies. So, also in many other countries, particularly in highly developed nations, especially in New York, London, we see there are so many instances of air pollution whereby the residents are harmed to a great degree. So, what is the government doing? The government is taking appropriate steps, ensuring that quality programs are relating to air quality are enforced, and thus together they are making an effort to bring down air pollution to a certain degree. Now, how is water affected by acid rain? We learnt about the effects of acid rain. How is water affected? Water is affected in multifarious ways, as we studied that it results in poisoning of the water because of the sulfides of oxygen and nitrogen. And how does oxygen level in the atmosphere get reduced? What are its consequences? Children, we studied that air is a mixture of gases. What is that mixture? 78% nitrogen, 21% oxygen, argon, 0.33% carbon dioxide, and they make up 99% of dry air. When these elements are maintained in their proper concentration, the air is pure. But when irritating gases or irritable gases they get into it, they produce a combination which is very toxic for all of us. As a result of which, inhaling such polluted air can result in a variety of health issues. Often they are respiratory disorders. Now, how do chemical industries cause damage in air pollution, and what is its far-reaching consequence? I already discussed in the previous slide, children, that many industries such as chemical ores, steel, cement, etc., they release a lot of toxic substances into the atmosphere. You must be remembering in the previous slide we have discussed. So, let us see. Harmful smoke is released from the chemical industries, and what does it do? It gets mixed with the atmospheric air and pollutes it to a large extent, after which we inhale this harmful air, and upon inhaling this harmful air, this dust and dirt slowly reaches our lungs. What happens when it reaches our lungs? It gives rise to a lot of health issues, especially respiratory disorders. Now, respiratory disorders may be of many kinds. It may affect your lungs, it may affect your trachea, it may affect your bronchi, it may also affect other varieties of organs that are a part of your respiratory system. We also learnt in the previous slides, children, that apart from the respiratory system, your eyes, your throat and your skin, they are also affected to a large degree. So, remember, air pollution is responsible for affecting human health to a large degree, not just respiratory disorders, but a variety of health issues. Two specific examples in our own country is one that happened in Delhi, which we saw. The resultant was smog, as a result of which little children, even they could not go to school. And what happened once they could not go to school? They were suffering from various kinds of respiratory disorders. There was a lot of problem. They had a lot of health issues. So, these are the impacts of air pollution on human health. Now, children, we discussed about the various consequences of air pollution. We must now move on to the next slide to discuss other important questions. How is acid rain caused? Acid rain, as we discussed in the previous slide, is caused when toxic sulfur oxides and nitrogenous gases mixed up with the rainfall, and there is creation of acid rain. Now this acid rain will fall on lakes, rivers, variety of vegetation and cause enormous damage. Now, how does polluted air travel from one country to another? This is also another interesting question. How does polluted air travel from one country to another? Naturally, the most important or the most relevant media by which it can travel from one country to another is by wind, and it also travels a distance of thousands of miles. For example, if in one particular country there is a pollutant, it can travel by wind and cause damage in another particular country. You must have heard of wildfires. They cross borders. For example, the Amazon forest is a huge forest. Supposing there is a wildfire, it will cross border and enter into other countries also and cause damage there. So also is the case of air pollutants. Now, what steps can be taken to reduce pollution caused by automobiles? Is this pollution a global problem? As we discussed that India is a continuously growing nation. There is a huge demand for vehicles. People want to travel by vehicles from one place to another. So how can we reduce pollution that is coming out from vehicles? And is this a global problem or not? Let us address this question. So what do we see? What is the most precise answer for this question? Automobiles can be redesigned. I used a term in the previous slide. It was catalytic converter. So also automobiles can be redesigned by using of what equipment? Catalytic converter. What will this catalytic converter do? It will change the toxic gases into harmless products. And once this has been done, it can be released into the atmosphere. Now, many countries have been trying to tackle this issue, but let's see how far it is effective. Many countries have been doing their best in tackling air pollution issues, but we have to see how effective the measures are. Now, coming on to certain other important questions, we have discussed a lot of question answers, but another important portions that you would be getting in your exam is the grammar part. So let us discuss these questions step by step. Now see, industries, thermal power stations, automobiles, acid rains, chlorofluorocarbons. These are all agents responsible for causing air pollution. How do they impact the components of the atmosphere? This is the section. So what do industries impact? They mostly impact air. And what is the nature of damage caused? Ash, dust particle which will damage your lungs. Moving on to the second subsection, thermal power stations. What do they impact? They impact the air. In which possible way? They release smoke and ash into the environmental air. Then moving on to automobiles, what do they impact upon? They mostly impact upon the environment. And what is the nature of damage? Inhalation of toxic substances or the gases which they release into the atmosphere. Now moving on to the next section, acid rain. What does it impact upon? Mostly it impacts your soil. It also impacts water, but majorly it impacts your soil. What does it do? It washes away all the natural nutritional components of your soil, and ultimately we have CFCs or chlorofluorocarbon. What does it impact? It impacts the temperature of the atmosphere. And what does it do? It destroys the atmospheric layers responsible for protecting human beings from the harmful radiation of sun. There will be many other words that you have to pick up from the text. One particular word will be paired with another particular word so as to make it a proper sounding word. For example, there will be a particular word gas. What can you term with gas? Either you can put toxic or you can put obnoxious. So look at gas. What can we pair it with? We can either pair it with obnoxious or we can also pair it with toxic. Similarly, in case of irritation, we have read from the text that eyes get irritated constantly because of air pollution. So, there will be, the word will be eye irritation. Similarly, in case of throat, what do we see? We have scratchy throat. What is the case with illness? Mostly respiratory illness. Similarly, what is the case with acid rain? It will leach away nutritional components of the soil and it may result in other harmful effects on the aquatic or terrestrial ecosystem. Now, this is something very important and a lot of students commit a lot of mistakes when we have a particular noun and we want to convert it into a verb form. There are many students who they go wrong while they converting a noun into a verb form. So, children, here are certain noun expressions and now if I want to change them into a verb form, how will I do them? Please pay attention to this particular slide. These are all slides that come in your grammatical portions of your text and you have to pay attention one by one. So, what do we see? What do we see? We see the noun forms. What are the noun forms? Resident. So, what will be the verb form? It will be reside. Similarly, pollution is the noun form. What will be the verb? It will be pollute. Similarly, composition would be compose, inhalation would be inhale, emission would be emit, comparison would be compare, knowledge would be know, recovery would be recover, destruction would be destroy, contamination would be contaminate. Similarly, precipitation would be precipitate, deterioration would be deteriorate. So, these are the noun forms and these are the verb expressions. Children, do not go wrong. If you want, you can copy this particular chart in your notebook, but do not go wrong while converting a noun form into a verb form. Now, similarly, we have some other words which are consume, which would be consumption. This is the verb form. Now, pay attention, I have changed the order. This is the verb form. We will convert it into a noun form. Consume will be consumption, alter would be alteration, produce would be production, represent would be representation. Similarly, justify would be justification, prevent would be prevention. Now, another important slide that we have is present participle and the past participle. Present participle, these consist of words which are expressions of what is happening in the current state, and past participle are expressions of the words that have already occurred or expressions of actions that have already occurred in the past. Let's see, rendering would be occurred in the past participle, crippling would be operated, surviving would be escaped, expanding would be consumed, contributing would be maintained, processing would be produced, exploding would be increased, alarming would be attributed, damaging would be affected. Similarly, we have another most important section, that is blending of words. Children, pay attention, when two words are blended into one, they will give rise to a completely new word. So, here are certain examples of blending expressions. See, foreign plus exchange bank. How can we combine these two words into one? We will take certain words from the first point and certain words from the second point. Foreign plus exchange bank will give you forex bank. Similarly, export plus import plus policy will give you exim. We have taken the initial words from the first two expressions. Slim plus tender will give you slender, and television plus broadcast will give you telecast. Now, using single words for each expression. This is also another important question that you get in your exam. Great threat is called as a menace. Getting worse day by day is called as crippling. Things used to make something, they are called as ingredients. A body of laws would be referred to as legislation, and a person who studies weather conditions is called as a meteorologist. Now, when you get questions like complete following sentences with appropriate participles of the words given in brackets, the beggar is wearing a dash shirt. Supposing the word is tear, you can use tore or you can also use torn, T-O-R-N, T-O-R-E or T-O-R-N. Similarly, my father brought me a dash suit. The word is swim. What can you use? Swimming suit. My friend wanted a cleaning instrument. The word would be clean. So, what can you use? Cleaning. I never like to take a boiled egg. Supposing the word is boil. The word used can be boiled. Similarly, what would you use in these solutions? Air pollution causes breathing problem. The word would be breathe. Air pollution has damaging effect on buildings. The word would be damage. Severity of air pollution is found in developing countries. The word would be develop. Now, these are difficult words that you find in the text and I would like to convey to you the meanings of each word. Industrial means related to industry. Crippling means damaging. Intake means consumption. Contaminated means impure. Severity means seriousness. Plying means running. Menace means threat. Lesions means injuries. Smog means mixture of fog and smoke. Spew means to throw out. Obnoxious means unpleasant. So children, I am very sure that after going through all these slides, you would have understood about the impacts and effects of air pollution. The chapter is a long one, hence I divided it into two particular sessions, one consisting of question answers, one word, and the other consisting of grammatical questions, so that you would understand the chapter clearly. Please note down whatever you would have found important, and during your revision, go through these questions thoroughly, and I am sure you will do very well in your exams. I hope you found the sessions interesting. Thank you.